Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how first week album sales genuinely do not matter anymore. Like, they just don't matter. I don't think they really ever mattered, but what I mean by that is recently Playboi Carti's album I Am Music, an album in which debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 with almost 300,000 units in its first week, sold a crazy number for an artist like Playboi Carti, just fell off the Billboard 200 after like being 60 weeks on the charts, which again, a great stat. However, if you're a great album that sells that much first week, you shouldn't be leaving the charts after 1 year. You should be leaving the charts like after like 4 or 5 years. And it just goes to show that first week sales literally don't mean anything in my opinion. Like, I know a lot of people are like, oh, he sold this, boo doo doo, he sold that much this first week, he sold this much this first week, he debuted at #1, blah blah blah. Like, going #1 genuinely doesn't really mean anything. Like, it doesn't tell you the full story on why it went #1. Like, did he use bundle deals? Did he like have like a huge hit song before leading to the album? Was there a lot of hype? Was the album good? Was the album trash? In my opinion, I Am Music was a failure. Like, I truly do believe that. Like, there's no way you could have over 30 tracks on an album, sell 300,000 units in its first week, and struggle to stay within the top 200 on Billboard after a year. Look, I get it. It's an accomplishment. 1 year is crazy. However, there's albums like Certified Lover Boy, an album that sold like 600,000 units in its first week. I wouldn't say a great album, but an album that performed pretty well. I would say a good album. Sold about 610,000 units in its first week. Is still on the charts 5 years later. Like, the album dropped in like 2020, and here we are in 2026. Certified Lover Boy is still on the charts at number 69. Or if you want even a better example, let's look at Heroes and Villains, an album that also dropped in 2022, about almost 4 years ago now. And guess what? It only sold 180,000 units in its first week. I Am Music sold about 300,000 units its first week. So it almost doubled what Heroes and Villains sold first week. And guess where Heroes and Villains is at? It's still in the charts. Like, it's not really high, but it's still in the charts like almost 4 years later at 188. Guys, I'm telling you, first week sales literally don't mean anything. They don't tell you the full story, right? Even Gunna is still on the charts with this last album, is still on the charts. Like, granted, he dropped it in like August, but still, he's still on the charts. Gunna shouldn't be able to be like on the charts like as long as Playboi Carti, in my opinion, considering Playboi Carti had so much hype going to I Am Music, and for him to just fall off the charts after like a year, in my opinion, is not a good look. In my opinion, was a failure. You have to keep in mind, Playboi Carti had guys like Future on the album, Ty Dolla Sign. He had Kendrick Lamar on the album like 3 times. He had Uzi on there. He had Travis Scott. He had Metro Boomin like produced some of the tracks on there. Like, he had pretty much everyone and their mama on that album basically, and it still wasn't enough to keep him on the charts. And that's what I'm saying about how first week sales literally don't mean shit, right? Like, ASAP Rocky, Don't Be Dumb, sold over 120,000 albums in its first week, and it debuted at #1. But guess where it's at? Is you think it's still in the charts? You think it's still on top 100, top 150? No, it's not even on the charts anymore. Why? Because no one's listening to it anymore. Like, here's my main point here is that people just don't find the replay value in these albums, and people are just not tuning in anymore. However, ASAP Rocky's first week sales don't tell the full story, because I think like 40,000 came from like pure sales because of bundle deals that he was doing, abusing it as he should, but again, not a good look. And it just tells you that these albums don't have longevity because people just don't care about them to go back to and re-listen to, because there's no replay value. Like J. Cole's album, The Fall Off, that dropped earlier this year, by the way. Do you think it's still in the charts? It sold 280,000 units in its first week and debuted #1 on the Billboard 200. Do you think it's still on the charts? Fuck no, it's not. It's not on the charts anymore. Over like 20 tracks on there, still not on the charts. It fell off the charts. First week sales don't tell you the full story. They don't tell you whether people liked it or not. Like, people can listen to a shitty album in its first week, and since there's a lot of hype behind the album, you're not gonna see that in the sales. But the sales will reflect that in the following week if people are still tuning in for the album. If it's not a good album, the sales are gonna drop by a lot. And another example here that I want to talk about, my last one, is Don Toliver. Don Toliver dropped the album earlier this year, right? Before I think ASAP Rocky and J. Cole, or I think slightly after ASAP Rocky, dropped his album Octane, sold 162,000 units in his first week. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, his first number 1 album ever. So congrats to him. Do you think he's still in the charts? Keep in mind, ASAP Rocky is not on the charts. J. Cole is not on the charts. Both dropped albums earlier this year, so not even like 6 months ago. Do you think Don Toliver's still in the charts? Because he is. He is, and you won't even believe what number he's at. Remember, 200 positions. Where do you think he's at? Maybe the top 50, top 30, top 100. What if I told you he's on the top 20? Because he fucking is. He's at number 12 at the time of this recording. That's what you call an album with longevity. First week sales do not mean anything, guys. I'm telling you, first week sales don't mean shit. Your first week streams don't mean shit. Right? I Am Music literally, I think, is in the top 3 albums ever to get the most amount of streams within its first week in rap albums only. The top 3 most streamed rap albums in its opening week are Certified Lover Boy, Scorpion, and then I Am Music. I Am Music literally was competing with 2 Drake albums, and it got 3rd, and it already fell off the charts. But Scorpion and Certified Lover Boy are still on the charts. So what does that tell you? Does it tell you that Playboi Carti has no fans? Does it tell you that it's all hype? Does it tell you that the album wasn't good? It could mean a lot of things, right? In my opinion, it just means the album wasn't good enough for people to keep coming back to. Clearly, the hype was there. If you're getting 300 million streams within its first week or whatever like that, and you can't even retain about half of them, it's not a good look. It tells me that your album wasn't good enough for people to keep coming back for more. Again, is what I'm saying, that first week sales don't really mean shit. But the reason why everyone cares about first week sales is because it determines whether you're going to go number 1 or not, right? It's how tracking periods work in Billboard. You drop something on Friday, and then Billboard tracks how it performed within that week, a week later, and they'll be like, okay, you're going to go number 1, you're going to go number 2, number 3. It tracks all the sales and everything like that, how many people are streaming it, and it tracks all that stuff. And guess what? That does nothing but hurt the industry because people are chasing hits, stats, and commercial success. That is the problem with albums like I Am Music. Clearly, you can tell based on the amount of tracks he put on there, the features, and the fact that he put the deluxe out too, tells you that Carti was truly just chasing hits. He was never chasing like staple album, like an album like as influential as Whole Lotta Red, because I Am Music, in my opinion, came and went. An album that was very anticipated by everyone, including me. I was super excited listening to it. First listen, I liked it, but I'm being honest with you, I don't go back to it anymore. I go back to like 2 tracks. I go back to Rather Lie and maybe like Hood Buyer. Right? I barely go back to any of the tracks. Why? Because longevity wasn't there. There was no replay value. Right? When you're having Kendrick Lamar be on your album 3 times when Kendrick Lamar never collabed with Playboi Carti in his life, and Kendrick Lamar just doesn't make the same music as Playboi Carti, it just feels forced and manufactured, and people are just not gonna tune into that shit. Like, why is Kendrick Lamar featured 3 times on the Playboi Carti album? I couldn't fucking tell you, but it was random. It was a poor decision because clearly he was just chasing hits because Kendrick Lamar was like the hottest rapper at the time because he just got off his hit record with Not Like Us, and he had dropped GNX at that point with Luther, so Kendrick was the hottest ever, and you put him 3 times on a Playboi Carti album, screamed that you were chasing hits, and that's a problem, because when you're chasing hits like that, you're gonna end up with the album like I Am Music and fall off the charts within a year, because guess what, GNX is still in the charts, so what went wrong, right? I couldn't tell you because clearly I don't know, but I can make some speculations, I can make some guesses here, and I'm just gonna say that the album was not good enough to keep people coming back for more. Therefore, it fell off the charts a year later, and that's why I think first week sales do not mean shit, and they don't tell you the full story.